The wind had teeth that night long, biting ones that clawed at the earth and scraped against the wooden ribs of Cole Thatcher's ranch. Every shutter rattled like bones clinking in a dry grave, and even the cattle sensed something wrong in the air. Their uneasy calls drifted across the darkening plains as if warning whatever soul was foolish enough to be outside. Cole tightened the barn's final latch, his lantern lifting and lowering with each wind gust. He'd known storms like this all his life, spring tempests that rolled out from the west, collecting dust, thunder, and trouble. But something in his gut whispered that this storm wasn't just weather, it was a sign. He just started toward the house when he felt rather than heard the thundering of hooves behind him. He turned, lantern held high, its trembling light cutting through the curtain of wind-blown grit. At first he saw only a dark shape skimming across the ridge, small, hunched, swaying dangerously in the saddle. The horse's hooves struck the path with frantic desperation. Stumbling, forcing its rider to clutch tightly to the reins to avoid falling, Cole stepped forward instinctively. As the horse slowed, the rider slumped forward, barely holding on. The lantern light swung across her face just as she slid from the saddle and into his arms. "Mara?" Cole breathed, stunned. Her face was ghost pale beneath layers of dust and tears. Her hair whipped wildly around her, long strands plastered to her cheeks. A thin, torn shawl clung to her shoulders, soaked with sweat, dust, and fear. Her bare feet were raw and bleeding, scraped from running before she'd ever reached that horse. But what struck Cole most was the way her hands trembled. No, it's not trembled. Shook, violently, helplessly, like she was trying to hold herself together. Cole. Her whisper cracked. "Cole, please help me." He crouched with her in the dirt, cradling her as the wind roared. Her breath came in shallow, panicked gulps that made her whole body shiver. "What happened to you?" he asked, voice taut. "Tell me." She lifted her head slowly, and in the next lightning flash, he saw her eyes wide red, terrified. Eyes that didn't belong to the girl he'd known growing up. Eyes that had seen something unspeakable. "My father." She choked on the words, her voice splintering with horror. "He wanted to sell me." Cole froze. Literally froze. His blood seemed to stop moving, a cold spike driving straight down his spine. The wind faded. The cattle fell silent. The world emptied itself of sound. What? He whispered, waiting for her to say anything else. Tell him she'd misspoken, that she'd misunderstood. The storm had made her delirious, but Mara nodded with a broken kind of certainty. "I heard him," she rasped. "He was in the barn. He thought I was asleep. There were men with him, strangers. They brought whiskey. They laughed. They joked about prices." Her voice hitched, and she wiped her nose with a shaking hand. "My father. He said I wasn't worth much as a daughter, but maybe I was worth something to them." "Oh?" Cole's jaw tightened so hard his teeth ached. Mara pressed her hands to her face, the memory shattering her composure. "I didn't want to believe it. But when he called them inside to take a look, I ran. I jumped out the window, barefoot." She showed him the torn skin on her feet. "They fired at me, Cole. They chased me across the valley. I thought I was going to die." Cole gathered her closer as the storm's first drops splattered against the dirt around them, hissing like angry spirits. "You're safe now," he murmured, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. "Come inside." He lifted her in his arms, her small frame limp from exhaustion and terror. The rain lashed hard, thick, cold sheets pouring from the sky. By the time he reached the porch, the storm had fully descended, drowning the plains in darkness and thunder. Inside the ranch house, Cole set her gently onto a chair near the hearth. The fire crackled under his quick, practiced hands as he fed it more wood. The warm glow painted Mara's bruises in heartbreaking detail. She stared into the flames like they were the last stable thing in her world. "Did they follow you?" Cole asked softly. I don't know. I don't think so." She swallowed. "But my father knows these lands. If he wants me back, he doesn't get that choice. Cole cut in firmly. Not anymore. Asterisk. She blinked up at him, tears gathering again. You don't understand? He'll come for me, Cole, and those men. They weren't the kind you reason with. Asterisk. Cole rose silently, walked to the gun rack, and selected the long rifle that had belonged to his grandfather. A weapon he only ever used when the situation meant life or death. Asterisk. He loaded it with slow, deliberate precision. Mara watched him, her breath catching. Asterisk. Cole, what are you doing? Asterisk. What needs to be done? Asterisk. Don't go, she whispered. Please don't go. You'll be killed. Asterisk. Cole knelt in front of her, smoothing the tangled hair from her face. Mara, he said gently, what your father planned. No decent man would turn his back on that. If I let him walk away from this, he'll do it again. Maybe not to you, God forbid, but to someone else. To any girl he thinks he can profit from. Asterisk. Lightning flashed, making Mara flinch. I don't want anyone to die because of me. Asterisk. He shook his head. This isn't because of you. His voice hardened to iron. This is because of him. Asterisk. She looked down, her fingers twisting the blanket around her shoulders. Just come back to me, Cole. Asterisk. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, soft, sad but certain. I will. Asterisk. He stood, slung the rifle across his back, and walked to the door. Mara grabbed his coat sleeve desperately. He looked back, just long enough for her to see the storm reflected in his eyes, not the one outside, but the one building inside him. Then he stepped out into the night. The wind howled in greeting. Rain hammered him instantly, dripping from the brim of his hat as he swung onto his horse. The ranch lights disappeared behind him as he rode into the dark. Guided only by the distant glow of Elias Granger's homestead. Asterisk. When he reached the property, he dismounted and moved through the shadows like a ghost. Drunken voices leaked from the barn, harsh and careless. He crept closer until their words became clear. Asterisk. Damn girl ran like a rabbit, one man said with a drunken chuckle. You sure she ain't coming back? Asterisk. Elias grunted. She will. She's too weak to survive out there. Thought she was your daughter, another man sneered. She's my problem, Elias snapped. And that problem's worth money? Cole's grip tightened so hard he felt the rifle stock groan beneath his hands. He stepped into the barn doorway. Asterisk. Elias blinked at him. Drunken confusion, sliding into annoyance. Cole, what in hell do you want at this hour? Cole raised the rifle. Mara. Asterisk. Elias laughed. That girl ain't your concern. Asterisk. She is now. The room went still. You threatening me? Elias spat. Asterisk. No. Cole's voice was ice. I'm ending this. One of the men reached for his gun. Cole fired before the man even touched the handle. Asterisk. Chaos erupted. Gunfire roared, wood splintered, lanterns crashed to the ground. Cole moved with ruthless calm, every shot placed with deadly intention. 2 men went down screaming. A third fled out the back, leaving a streak of blood behind him. Only Elias remained. Rain blew in through the broken boards, soaking the hay. Elias held a pistol, but his hand trembled. Asterisk? You'd kill me for her? He rasped. Asterisk. Cole stepped forward. Face carved from stone? Asterisk. No. I'd kill you for what you tried to do, Elias shouted, and raised his pistol. Cole fired. Asterisk. The blast echoed louder than the thunder outside. Elias collapsed, staring up at the rafters as rainwater dripped onto his lifeless face. Asterisk. Cole lowered the rifle slowly, letting the weight of what he'd done settle into the air. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't relief. It was simply necessary. Asterisk. He whispered. You don't own her anymore. Asterisk. He left the barn without looking back. Behind him, lightning struck the roof. Whether fate or coincidence, Cole would never know. Flames licked upward, devouring the structure in seconds. Asterisk. By the time he returned to his ranch, soaked and exhausted, Mara was still awake, sitting by the fire with her knees hugged to her chest. When Cole stepped in, dripping and silent, she stood. Their eyes met. What did you do? she whispered. Cole removed his hat, water puddling at his feet. What I had to. Mara didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Cole froze, then slowly returned the embrace, holding her tightly as the storm howled outside. For the first time that night. Mara's trembling stopped, and Cole finally understood. He hadn't saved her. He'd chosen her.